whether you're in Bermuda or outside. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the opportunity God has granted to be with us this evening. We have some reading tonight that I'd like to see if I can ask some of you to read for me or to read for us. I'd like to tap Brother Lambert, Colonel Lambert, to read our first slide, followed by Brother Stephen Phillips, followed by Sister Jennifer Phillips, followed by Brother Carl Maybury, followed by Sister Karen Esdell, followed by Sister Terry, and Brother Bassett. I may need one more reader, but we'll sort this as we go. So Carnell, Stephen, Jen, Carl, and Karen, Terry, and Bassett. So our announced topic in the series is the apostasy of Israel. And if you've been with us before, you have seen the slide or the information on the current slide. And you have also seen the information on this slide. And it hardly needs any repetition. At least I'm hoping so. And so we want to look at this text and invite Brother Carnell to read for us, please. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Brother Bruno. 1 Samuel 8, 1-7. Now it came to pass when Samuel was old, excuse me, that he made his sons judges over Israel. The name of his firstborn was Joel, and the name of his second, Abijah. They were judges in Beersheba, but his sons did not walk in his ways. They turned aside after dishonest gain, took bribes, and perverted justice. Then all the elders of Israel gathered together and came to Samuel at Ramah, and said to him, Look, you are old, and your sons do not walk in your ways. Now make us a king to judge us like all the nations. But the thing displeased Samuel when they said, Give us a king to judge us. So Samuel prayed to the Lord.
Thank you, Brother Steve. Thank you, Brother Lambert. And Brother Steve.
And the Lord said to Samuel, Heed the voice of the people and all that they say to you. For they have not rejected you, but they have rejected me, that I should not reign over them, according to all the works which they have done since the day that I brought them up out of Egypt, even to this day, with which they have forsaken me and served other gods. So they are doing to you also. Now therefore heed their voice. However, you shall solemnly forewarn them and show them the behavior of the king who will reign over them. So Samuel told all the words of the Lord to the people who asked him for a king. And he said, This will be the behavior of the king who will reign over you. He will take your sons and appoint them for his own chariots, and to be his horsemen, and some will run before his chariots.
Thank you, Brother Steve and Sister Jen.
He will appoint captains over his thousands and captains over his 50s, will set some to plough his ground and reap his harvest, and some to make his weapons of war and equipment for his chariots. He will take your daughters to be perfumers, cooks and bakers, And he will take the best of your fields, your vineyards, and your olive groves, and give them to his servants. He will take a tenth of your grain and your vintage, and he will give it to his officers and servants. And he will take your male servants, your female servants, your finest young men, and your donkeys, and put them to his work. He will take a tenth of your sheep, and you will be his servants.
Thank you, Sister Jen. Brother
Good.
Carl.
1 Samuel 18 to 22. And you will cry out in that day because of your king whom you have chosen for yourselves, and the Lord will not hear you in that day. Nevertheless, the people refused to obey the voice of Samuel, and they said, No, but we will have a king over us, that we also may be like all the nations, and that our king may judge us and go up before us and fight our battles. And Samuel heard all the words of the people, and he repeated them in the hearing of the Lord. So the Lord said to Samuel, Heed their voice, and make them a king. And Samuel said to the men of Israel, Every man go to his city.
Thank you, Brother Carl. And Sister Karen.
When you come to the land which the Lord your God is giving you, and possess it and dwell in it, and say, I will set a king over me, like all the nations that are around me, you shall surely set a king over you, whom the Lord your God chooses, one from among your brethren, you shall set as king over you. You may not set a foreigner over you, who is not your brother. But he shall not multiply horses for himself, nor cause the people to return to Egypt to multiply horses. For the Lord has said to you, You shall not return that way again. Neither shall he multiply wives for himself, lest his heart turn away, nor shall he greatly multiply silver and gold for himself.
Thank you, Sister Karen and Sister Terry.
Just adjusting my picture. Hold on.
Okay.
Okay. Also it shall be, when he sits on the throne of his kingdom, that he shall write for himself a copy of this law in a book, from the one before the priest, the Levites. And it shall be with him, and he shall read it all the days of his life, that he may learn to fear the Lord his God, and be careful to observe all the words of this law and these statutes, that his heart may not be lifted above his brethren, that he may not turn aside from the commandment to the right hand or to the left, and that he may prolong his days in his kingdom, he and his children in the midst of Israel.
Thank you very much, Brother Bassett. We'll bring up your slide just a little later. So we've read through 1 Samuel 8, where during the time of the judges, actually through the last judge, Samuel was the last judge of Israel. And this period of the judges, according to Stephen in his sermon in Acts chapter 7, lasted for about 400 years. So historically, after the conquest of Canaan, led by Joshua, and Israel received the land, and we are told in Joshua 21, the Lord gave unto Israel all the land, which he swore to give unto their fathers, and they possessed it, and they dwelt therein. There failed not aught of any good thing which the Lord had promised, all came to pass. Joshua 21:43. Would now come the period of the judges. And you can remember Samuel, Samson, Jephthah, Deborah. These are among the judges. So here during the tenure of Samuel, we are told that he didn't do better than Eli, his mentor, as far as being a father is concerned. We've been talking about Eli and how he failed as a father, how God held him accountable, how he was complicit to some extent in the bad behavior, we might say the delinquency of his sons. And Eli, Samuel rather, who was mentored by him, we are learning now in 1 Samuel 8 that when he became old, he made his sons judges, and they didn't follow his ways. And their sins likely are also chronicled for us in this text. And when Samuel heard Israel's request for a king, he was displeased and he talked to the Lord about it. The Lord told him, go ahead and give them their request and don't feel too badly about it because they're not rejecting you, they're rejecting me. He says, however, before you give them the king, tell them what life is going to be like under the king. Samuel tells them, and their response is, nah, we want a king, man. We want a king. We not only want a king, but we want a king to be like the nations. So Samuel would actually anoint Saul. Saul would be the first king of Israel. But this text in 1 Samuel 8 needs to be taken in conjunction with what we read in Deuteronomy chapter 17, because this seems to suggest that God had anticipated the time when Israel would request a king for us. And God says, when that time comes, you may appoint a king, but it has to be the one that I choose. And then God stipulates the conditions for his reign. And so the request for a king was not in itself the apostasy, but it had to do with the motivations of the people of Israel. And of course, as it turned out, the king whom God would give them, Saul, that he would not follow God's instructions with regards to the kingship, and he would do his own thing. God would remove him and give David. And David is spoken of as a man after God's own heart. But he himself blundered. The story of humanity seems to be the story of failure. And that is true among some of the greatest lights in the constellation of men and women of God. And it behooves us to strive for the truth and to strive for conformity to the will of God, but it also behooves us to be gracious in our judgment of ourselves first, and consequently and subsequently our judgment of others. And so we want to study this tonight. First Samuel 8, coupled with Deuteronomy 17, and also with this other text that Brother Bassett is going to read to us now. Brother B, let me bring this text up and you can go right ahead. Read for us, please.
This is from the book of Hosea, chapter 13, verses 9 to 11. O Israel, thou hast destroyed thyself, but in me is thine help. I will be thy king. Where is any other that may save thee in all thy cities? And thy judges, of whom thou saidst, give me a king and princess. I gave thee a king in mine anger, and took him away in my wrath.
Thank you, Brother Bassett. Thank you so much. So all of these passages help to give us, I would say, pretty complete picture of the whole issue of Israel's request for the king. And we want to look at that tonight as a case that fits into the framework that we have been working with, namely that of events, thoughts of those events, the whispering and the sprinkling of Satan's lies into the heart of man, because that's what he uses to think. Satan sprinkles those lies with the hope that man will believe them. If he believes them, then these are the beliefs that he uses to bring meaning, to bring interpretation. The interpretation influences how they feel, the emotions influence the choices influence the standing. That's still the framework that we're working with. As we study this case, I don't want us to study it independently of the framework. I want us to see how that also fits within the framework we've been working with. Yeah. All right. So we will go now into our discovery learning. And if you know the answer to a question and you'd like to answer or respond, we welcome you. We welcome you. We're having a great time studying and learning together. And we would like as many people as possible to participate, as many as would like. You're welcome. Don't be shy. Don't be hesitant or reserved. Feel free to engage. God has placed something on your heart, and you can bless us with that in your response to the questions, in terms of how you view and perceive them. So we start then with our first one, and that is, what occasion in Samuel's house became, oh, all right, I said what occasion, I should say, have said what event. What event in Samuel's house became the occasion for Satan to attack the hearts of Israel's leaders? We should have a hand up for this almost immediately. Anybody wants to take this one? What event in Samuel's house became the occasion for Satan to attack the hearts of Israel's leaders?
That is Thaddeus. I think his age And because he was not walking in the ways of the Lord.
Okay. Okay, you think his age was the event?
Or as an event, yes, that caused.
Okay,
Because
the age is,
the elders told him, you are old, so you're old and your sons do not walk in the ways of the, I made a mistake. The sons does not walking in the ways of the Lord.
okay. Those elders there, they were not very kind, were they?
No.
I mean, the guy is old. They didn't have to remind him and say, hey, you're old. Yeah. Okay, so you have posited that his age as well as the waywardness of his sons
Yes.
became the occasion. All right. Thank you very much, Sister Mendoza. We appreciate it. Anybody else who has a different answer, feel free to go. All right, Sister Mendoza, it looks like everybody agrees with your answer. So let's move on then to the next question. Just before we do, though, let's be paying attention to the events that become the occasion. We have looked at a number of cases, and through simple events, some more challenging or more simple than others. But let us also be informed by the events and non-events that become the occasion. When we looked at King Saul, his relationship with David, the event was the women were singing. Saul killed thousands, but David, tens of thousands. That became the event. All right. So, our second question, what is bribery and how is it harmful to the cause of justice, equity, and fairness? I'm not necessarily looking for a dictionary definition. Your own practical definition would be fine. What is bribery? This is one of the things we are told about Samuel's sons, Joel and Abijah. They took bribes and they perverted the way of justice. They had been made judges, and judges are supposed to be impartial, fair, and balanced. In Western civilization, the scale is the symbol of justice, and maybe a blindfolded lady as well. She is supposed to be blinded to things like gender and ethnicity. In other words, those things are not supposed to factor into the meting out of justice. Sister Jen, go right ahead.
Bribery is where, especially if you're in a position of authority, as in judging people, that the people that you are judging, especially if they're wrong, can pay you to judge in their favor. So they're paying you to either ignore their poor behavior or to make it so that they come out best in whatever deal it is that they're doing.
Okay, very good. Yeah, thank you. It comes out in their favor. They pay you, and the bribe doesn't necessarily have to be in the form of money. It could come in other things that have value. Um, so that is an excellent definition of bribery. And how is it harmful to the cause of justice, equity, and fairness? Well, we've sort of alluded to that already. May I invite you to turn to a couple of passages, Exodus 23, and let us see what is said there to Israel in verse 8, Exodus 23 and 8. Does somebody have that text who would like to read it?
I'll read it, Brother Bruno.
Okay, thank you.
And you shall take no bribe, for a bribe blinds the discerning and perverts the words of the righteous.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Sister Terry. The bribe blinds the discerning. It makes you turn a blind eye to the reality, that the very reality that is supposed to be influencing your judgment. Yeah. Because you have been given something under the table, then that blinds you to the reality that this person may have, in fact, violated this other person. Let's look at Deuteronomy as well, Deuteronomy chapter 16. And in verse 19, we have somebody else who would like to read that text. That would be good too. Deuteronomy 16, 19, and 20.
19 and 20.
Yes,
Thou
sir.
shalt not wrest judgment. Thou shalt not respect persons, neither take a gift. For a gift doth blind the eyes of the wise and pervert the words of the righteous. That which is altogether just shalt thou follow, that thou mayest live and inherit the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee.
Amen, amen. Thank you very much. That which is altogether just. That word just means fair or right. It is the root word for the concept of justice. The idea of justice is derived from the word just, which means fair and right. And so justice has no interest at all in external things such as the color of skin, the money, the economic prowess of an individual. To receive that is, in fact, to be in itself the definition of a perversion of justice. Judges are to be blind to whether the persons before them are Republicans or Democrats. So if judges are being influenced by political party, then they cannot be trusted to mete out justice, because that party connection is going to twist, is going to influence how they feel. And actually, that money will become the means through which Satan enters the heart. We've been talking about heart attacks. Satan will attack the hearts of the judges through the offer of a bribe. So there are things that money can't buy, that money shouldn't be able to buy. And of course, if money can buy it, then it's not justice, it is something else, it's a favor. So God is right and God is fair, and he spells out his values here in the text that we have read in Exodus and Deuteronomy. And so when we read in First Samuel that Samuel's sons perverted justice, then we have an understanding of what is happening here. All right. Very well. Let's go on then to our next question. How do we know that the elders of Israel had been thinking about the ministry of Samuel's sons? Thinking is one of our principles. Events. We begin to think about those events, and then Satan sprinkles the lies through the process or in the process of thoughts. So Eli's sons, they're taking bribes, and they come to Samuel and they make a request. But is there any evidence that the request that they made of Samuel came from thoughts that they were having about the ministry of Joel and Abijah? How do we know? Anybody?
Bruno, Brother Bruno,
Yes, Brother Clancy, go right ahead, sir.
they had to know because they had to be thinking about it simply because they came together. It wasn't a case that one did, all the elders did. So they must have collaborated in some way, or they must have been thinking about, first of all, his age, Samuel's age, and the fact that his sons were involved in this bribery. They gave it some thought, and because they gave it some thought, they were able to come to Samuel and ask him to more or less get rid of his sons, and seek a king to mete out justice as opposed to his sons.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Very, very, very true. Yeah, that certainly um, uh, holds water and bears out, is borne out in the text. Thank you, Brother Clancy. Appreciate it. Sister Sweeney.
I would say even before they get together, they would have been the victim or recipient of those sons' judgment, you know. So that is what displeased them, and they got together to do something about it.
Okay. Thank you. So you're surmising that they themselves might have been on the receiving end of miscarriages of justice from Samuel's sons. And if that was the case, then they would really have been thinking about it. They would have been very upset about it. But clearly, they are thinking about it, and the evidence is it comes out in their words. It's on their mind as they address Samuel. Your sons are not walking in your ways. those words reveal their thoughts. Jesus says, from the abundance of the heart,
The mouth speaketh.
the mouth speaks.
That's right.
So our words reveal the contents of our hearts.
Mhm.
So we know they were thinking about it. And while they're thinking about it, then we say that now becomes the occasion for Satan to attack them. So he attacks the hearts of the leaders who are thinking about the delinquency, the miscarriage of justice, and he attacks them by planting a thought
Oh, what's in their mind?
in their minds. Isn't that right, Sister Mendoza?
Oh, sorry. I have something to say. Sorry about that. Oh
All
my
right.
goodness. I
Good.
always forget to mute myself.
Yes,
But
that's it.
I'm just thinking, Brother Bruno, that sometimes we take our eyes off of God. And here it is, these men, these elders, they start seeing what in the other country, what the other nations were doing. And they probably felt that, they were doing so much better than us. So why must we still be under this king, this, and even Eli, not Eli, sorry, Samuel, and together with his children who were doing so much wrong. I don't know. This is just a thought that sometimes our eyes deceive us.
Yes, yes, very much so, very much so. Um, and I think your sentiments here are related to a question that is coming up. I think you're hinting at the fact that they were looking at the nations. Yeah. And things appeared really attractive over there. All right. Thank you, Sister Mendoza. Appreciate um, your offerings. All right. Who has the next question? The next one is
But
what interpretation? I'm sorry.
uh,
You
Brother
wanted to
Bruno,
go?
yeah,
Yes.
before you move on, could I just ask a question, please?
Sure, Brother Kunji.
Um, Knowing the type of man Samuel was, a man of God, and seeing that his sons were not walking with him and not walking with God, why would he appoint them to be judges over these nations?
Yeah. Over the people of Israel. Um, it's a good question. Um, it's a good question. This is not a case where they had to be Samuel's sons, as it was with the priesthood. With the priesthood, there was a qualification for the priest being a Levite and of the sons of Aaron, but not so with the office of the judge. So other persons could have served as judge in this instance. So your question is a good one. Given what we know about Samuel, how God called him to the office, and he served as priest as well, and that God had revealed himself to him. The Bible tells us on a number of occasions that God had revealed the plight of Eli through him. How could he have acted in what appears to be such an inconsistent way with what we knew of him? I would answer by saying that none of us is beyond compromise. And he may have wanted his sons, they were his sons. It's very hard to detach and to cut those paternal ties. It's a very difficult thing to do. A parent continues to care for the child, even when the child has done wrong. It's hard to stop caring, and it's a tough thing to do. It's not a justification, but I think the only justifiable reason that I can think is because they were his sons, and he wanted them to benefit in some way. That would be my answer. What is your answer, Brother Kunchi?
Well, I like the answer you give because his heritage, it was so close, his sons. I mean, if we have something in life and we were to share it after we get old, the first person we will want to give is our family, our children. So I could see how Samuel is thinking in that line. But the only thing is that because they were not following and seeing what their father did and how God looked upon his father, and for them to fall away and do their own thing, to take bribe and misleading the people, it's saddening. It really is a sad situation. That's all.
Yes, sir. It is. Um, and it's sobering, I think is what it is. It kind of sobers you up, particularly the way you have framed it, given the guy that we know he was. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Sister Val uh, wants to chime in. Sister Val, go right ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I just thought Brother Coon's question was interesting because it made my mind go all over the place. And the first thing I thought of was God says, if you put father, mother, son, or daughter before me, you're not worthy of me. He says that. So when you're already outside that parameter, it doesn't get better, it gets worse. And so we don't know whether or not his sons were such that, you know, we're not coming around you, Dad, if you don't give us this, that, or the other. We don't know that. You know what I mean? Some children can hold their parents hostage over just being able to see them or their children. You know, I know of instances where people said, "Oh, I'm not going to bring my child around to see you because," and then ABC. Yeah, so they could have been holding their dad hostage, or like Brother Kunji said, he's old and he wants to please his sons. Um, so maybe that was a way of pleasing them, but he's already outside the perimeter of doing what God told him to do. So it wasn't going to get better; it was just going to get worse. And yeah, sometimes children they're clever enough to know how to get what they want and play it off on you and make the parent feel guilty. So, and then we have the situations today where like there are some shows that come on television, where churches are being handed down to the children, whether they're worthy or not, whether it's male or female. They want the dad wants the daughter in the pulpit, or the mother wants her son in the pulpit, and they earn the church, and the church buys them stuff, and it doesn't get better. It won't get better. It would just go so far away from God that it's unrecognizable in heaven. So that's where my brain went, and I just thought, good grief, what were they holding their dad hostage for? But anyway, such is life.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you very much. Very interesting, Sister Val. Thanks for sharing as you have. We appreciate it. Appreciate it. All right. Um, we're probably ready to move on. So, question number 4. What interpretations did the elders of Israel bring to this situation? We're referring to the situation of the breakdown of justice under Samuel's sons, that and what likely emotions did they feel? Yeah. The elders have come to Samuel, and we know what they've said. We know they've been thinking about it. So what did they interpret this state of affairs surrounding Samuel's sons to be? And having interpreted it as they did, what emotions are now generated from such an interpretation? Who wants to swing at that?
Okay, I'll give it a shot.
All right, Brother Clancy, go right ahead, sir.
I'm talking about emotions. In Samuel's case, he felt blindsided, so much so that he had to go to God and ask God whether that was the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, he was not very pleased with the elders for their bringing that to him
Mm-hmm.
for consideration. So
Right,
that was, I'm talking about the emotional part of it, as far as Samuel was concerned.
right. And what about the emotions of the elders?
Oh, the elders were very they were happy. I think they were happy to ensure that they would treat it like neighboring nations. They wanted a king by all means to lead them, and since they had a perfect avenue to in the fact that the sons were so delinquent in their or didn't do the duties that they were supposed to, they had a perfect opportunity to demand what they wanted.
Mm.
So they, as far as the emotions were concerned, they were very pleased, they're very happy
Mm.
of having to go to Samuel and demanded or requested or demanded what they wanted.
Yeah. All right. Very interesting. As well. Appreciate the shared thoughts, Brother Clancy. Do I hear another voice? Oh, Sister Danica. Sister Danica, go right ahead. Thank you.
I think the elders felt that there was no replacement in leadership. Because the sons were corrupt, I guess they read it as, okay, there's no one suitable to replace Samuel. And they could have felt a little anxiety at that. We also know that they were looking at the other nations. So maybe they looked at it as, oh, here's an opportunity to throw this idea out there. Your boys aren't doing what they're supposed to, so maybe we need to look at somewhere else for leadership. And the other nations are looking pretty attractive.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much, Sister Danica. Appreciate that. They um, interpreted the situation as being hopeless. Um, a lot of remedial ideas didn't come to their mind um, where that was concerned. And that situation now generated an emotion of anxiety. My goodness. What are we going to do? So thank you for sharing as you have. Very insightful. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else who has a different thought in terms of how they interpreted the delinquency of the judges and how that generated specific feelings within them? Sister Sweeney.
More than an answer to that, I will have a question. I'm wondering if they wanted to be like other nation even before they came up with this interpretation of his sons, like they were looking for an excuse and they wanted to be like the other people, since I'm talking about that, I just also want to add, and that is what's happening with us today also, like us and them, and we are forgetting we are unique, but we want to be like them. So we're bringing in their stuff to us, like we are not satisfied with who God is and his teachings, and we want what others have to say. And so like if a Trini have to tell Samuel, he would say like, you too old and them boys not unfit.
Okay. You put it in Trini language. You're too old and them boys not fit. Okay. All right. Thank you, Sister Sweeney. So you were wondering, as you said, whether there was already this desire to be like the nations prior to the onset of the miscarriage of justice. Brother Clancy put forward that idea as a likelihood. So both of you are of that same view. Thanks for sharing. Brother Corey, good to have you, sir. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Brother Bruno. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, very interesting subject tonight. Just wanted to say that I agree with what most people have said this evening already on this question, but I just wanted to add, yep, they did consider the boys unfit, and I think one of the likely emotions that they were feeling was the emotion of opportunity. They sensed opportunity, and it's similar to what transpired with the crucifixion of Jesus, but that was on a much higher level. This one is where they're just saying we don't want God, we don't like the way he picks judges. Yeah, your sons are not fit, and we don't like his program, so we want to put in our own king. And yes, I agree, like everyone else said, that they have been watching the nations for a minute. The other thing I wanted to add was that what we also see in this scenario is what you see in all nations. Yes, there's a leader whose name and picture, for example, the president of the United States is Donald Trump, but he has an army of people that he works with, and I'm not sure within that group that he's the leader. He may be the president of the United States, but it's not setting the agenda. So in this scenario, you have the elders of all the tribes of Israel coming to Samuel saying, we have an opportunity to take control of our own destiny, and we're going to do it, whether you like it or not. And it's the same thing that happened with Christ. So, although they failed in that one. But yeah, I just wanted to add that. There's always a group of people behind leaders, no matter what country you look at.
Yes. Thank you very much, Brother Corey. Very interesting, very insightful as well. And ringing very true, very true. Thank you. Brother Clancy obviously found some of your sentiments there to be funny.
No,
He doesn't know his mic is open, and we heard him laughing away.
no, no. It was funny. I can't concur. Sorry.
I know you concur that sometimes the person who is the face of the leadership of the presidency may not be
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
calling the shots. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Sister Yvonne Smith, thanks for coming on and
Good
offering
evening.
your thoughts. Yes, good evening.
I just think that the elders, they saw how fully Samuel, had raised his sons and what a terrible job they were doing. And they felt emboldened. Um, they felt that they wanted to have someone, a fleshly leader. They did not, I don't know why, but they just believed that the God in heaven, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, was not able to represent them on earth. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of. So they wanted someone who they can look to in the flesh. And so they felt quite emboldened when they saw how terrible Samuel's sons were doing. And so they presented this to him.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, sis. Very interesting thoughts as well. Um, I think with them, as you pointed out, they were acting here more on sight than on faith. Um, God was their king. That comes out in the text where God says to Samuel, they have not rejected you, but they have rejected me, that I should not reign over them. So God saw himself as their king. Obviously, Israel was a monarchy. Yeah. And if they were a monarchy, that means they had to have had a king. And God assumed that role over them. And as you were pointing out, he carried out that role from heaven. They couldn't see him. Now they want someone in the flesh. So they are acting more by sight. They're driven more by sense perceptions, than they are by faith, which is how God wants us to walk. West End, go right ahead, please.
Yes, good evening, Brother Bruno.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, this is a fascinating story here. I find so much hidden gems and nuggets of interest that come out of this because it's so many angles you can look at it. But what I find interesting about this particular point four is that God actually you can see the mercy of God in this whole situation because he pre-warned them of what will happen. And I don't know if this is answering the question, this is a part two to this, or five might be this what the question is, but he warned them of the repercussions of having a human king in place instead of him. And that's even through all that they did, and even with Israel's disobedience in the situation, allowing emotions and allowing, asking for a human king, he warned them of what will happen. He broke it down in sentence, the exact situation of what happened, and it did happen. And when they cried out to him, he will not hear them. So he does the same to us. The warnings are there, blatant and clear in the Bible. But yet, as humans as we are, we sometimes disregard them and the consequences of our actions are shared. But yes, to answer the question, I truly believe that their emotions and how they saw the sons, and looking at the other nations, that influenced them in their decision to, irregardless of what God had warned them, they wanted to have a human king. So it's unfortunate, but yeah, we're
Yeah.
no different. We're no different today, I guess, in some sense.
Well, you have referenced that. on the application side, and Sister Sweeney, before you, have also referenced the application side, drawing parallels between this state or phase of their history and what is happening in the church today, not only on a congregational level, but also on an individual level as well. We see the stars from Hollywood, and we see the glamour of their lifestyle, and we adopt their trends in terms of hairstyles, in terms of tattoos, in terms of um, approaches to modesty. It's not only what's happening on a congregational level, but an individual level as well. And we have to, somebody brought up the idea of identity. I think it was Sister Sweeney, identity. And I appreciate you saying this is such a fascinating text, isn't it? I mean, God's word is something. Yeah. All right, let's go on then. Next question. What was the connection? What was the connection between their request, which reflected their choice for a king, and their emotions? We talked about the emotion of opportunity. Brother Corey referenced that. Sister Danica referenced anxiety. So was there a connection between their emotional state and the choice that they settled on, namely, let's have a king? What is that connection? Who wants to speak to that? All right. Nobody wants to speak to that. They think it's rather obvious that these emotions of anxiety and opportunity obviously influence them in the request that they made. All right, so let's go on then to the next one. Question number 6. Were there other options other than a request for a king open to Israel's leaders? If so, what were they? They came to Samuel and said, "We want a king." But is that the only requests that they could have made? What other requests do you think were open to them that might have been better choices? What are your thoughts? Sister Val?
Well, the thing, when they went to Samuel, they had already not even included God in their thinking, because if you're going to the priest who has connection with God, the question should have been, can you ask God what we should do? But they didn't. They didn't even consider that. They just wanted what they wanted. It was sort of like a mob idea. Everybody thinking the same. I think Corey alluded to it. Let's crucify Jesus. Nobody stopped to think, well, because even Pilate knew he was not guilty of any sin, but they didn't want to hear that. So this mob thinking. But like I said, they've already departed from God because they haven't included Him in their thinking. So that's what I think the problem was. And because they didn't give Samuel, and they thought he was too old anyway, but they didn't even consider the fact that he still might have had some connection with God, and could have asked God on their behalf what they should do next.
Mhm. All right, all right. Very good, very good. Thank you. They could have they could have inquired of Samuel. Sister Val is suggesting as a different option rather than coming with already minds made up about what they should do. Anybody else? Were there other options? Brother Clancy, go ahead.
Well, I think since there was a reason to get rid of Samuel's sons, they could have said to Samuel, "Listen, you know that your sons are not qualified for that position. Let us look to others. Get rid of them and look to others to replace them." That could have been something that they could have asked for, but they didn't.
Yes.
Because there was definitely a need to get rid of the sons.
Yes.
Because they were doing a terrible job in that bribery, taking bribes and things like that. You can't have a judge. So they could have replaced them. They could have asked for a replacement in conjunction with Samuel. But their minds were already made up because they looked at the other. They looked at the other country, other regions, and they saw they had a king, and they wanted a king as well. In spite of the fact that God had told them the king might not have been the best, but that's what they wanted. It's the same thing with what's happening now with the United States of America. You know, Trump told them exactly what they wanted, and they still voted him in. So they can't blame anybody but themselves.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. Thank you. Good answer. Good answer. They could have asked for a replacement. And Sister Val says they could have asked Samuel's opinion on it. Maybe they thought Samuel had lost credibility since he was the one who appointed them judges. And his age has not been lost on us. Several people have made reference to that. There is a diminishing of ability. There's a diminishing of even cognitive ability and maybe even judgment with the onset of age. I think I referenced some time ago that sometimes parents have children early and they're very present with the children in terms of raising them. And then if they have a child that comes along late in the game, the standards of discipline are not always the same because there's sometimes a diminishing of the energy as well, the energy. So sometimes you just want peace. And that may have been a factor in Samuel's a terrible choice to appoint them judges. All right. Thank you very much. We have a few more questions here. Let's hit them. All right. Number 7, since the elders of Israel requested to be like the nations, what does that reveal about them? And by them, we mean the elders of Israel, not the nations. What can we learn? What information is being given to us about the elders of Israel in that they have requested a king? But listen, they have not just requested a king. They have requested a king so that they could be like the nations. Who wants to swing at that?
Brother Thaddeus, may I?
You certainly may, Sister Mendoza.
I think, they realize that their ability failed. They let down their own selves in the sense that they were not capable. Instead of thinking, of following with whatever Samuel was teaching them, they felt that we're not able. We want a king that to rule, to fight for us and all this sort of stuff. So I believe, they felt incapable of handling the nation. That is how I look at it.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you, Sister Mendoza. Appreciate it. Anybody else?
Brother Bruno, that also reveals that they have forgotten who God is,
Okay.
bringing
right.
them out of Egypt, and what He has done for them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So they have forgotten. All right. All right. I see what you're saying. Because with the emotion of anxiety, anger, frustration, um, there could have been, Sister Sweeney suggesting, there a faith response, um, where those negative feelings would have been absent. Yeah, if we are trusting God to continue his leadership of the nation as he did in bringing us out of Egypt and through the wilderness, then God can carry us through this bad patch as well. And if they hadn't been feeling those emotions, as we are noticing, then they might have made a different choice. Our choices come out of the emotions that we're feeling. If it's anxiety or anger, then likely good choices are not going to come out of that. Thanks, Sister Sweeney. Sister Terry?
Okay. I I'm thinking that Satan attacked their mind. That as elders, they're supposed to be leaders, but this behavior depicts followers instead. So they were more interested in following what the other nations were doing, as opposed to praying to and trusting in God's judgment, response, etc. So, and then that happens with us in today's life as well. So, yeah, I think that because they were perhaps fearful of what could have happened, had their doubts if Samuel's sons had taken over, they allowed Satan to come in and affect their minds to make them think that following the ways of man as opposed to God would be the better route for them to take. And so instead of them standing up as elders, they became followers of others.
Wow, wow, wow. That's strong. That's strong. And thanks for adding the emotions of fear and doubt. Yeah, Sister
Yeah.
Terry pointed out that they were fearful with the reality that faced them surrounding the sons. And now they're doubtful as regards the future. And so those emotions now are going to make them act in a crazy way.
Right.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Very, very interesting. Sister Val.
I'm in the same vein with Sister Terry, but I was going to put it a different way. It was Satan that was like, oh, got him. You know what I mean? These crazy people been following God all this time. Now I'm going to pull them into my circle. See, they didn't even see his deception. They were blinded by what Satan was drawing them into, as opposed to sticking with God and trusting that God will work this out for them. So yeah, I agree with Sister Terry when she says that he got in their minds, so much so that he was pulling them into his camp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Great thoughts. Thank you, Sister Terry and Sister Val. Brother Carl.
Yes, Brother Bruno, I think that the elders were looking at the other nations and they were feeling kind of weak and they inadequate, and the devil was telling them that if they had a king, they would look much more stronger, and they wouldn't have the appearance. They'd be just like the other nations, looking stronger instead of having the appearance of weakness, and that they would be conquered at any time without a fleshly king.
Mhm.
So they needed a king to look more powerful and stronger.
Mhm. Wow. Yeah. Which again is speaking to their sense reaction, moving more by sight than by faith. Look at the text with me in Exodus 19. Exodus 19, and let's begin there at verse 4. Exodus 19 and 4. Somebody has that and can read it. It's Exodus 19, 4 through 6. Feel free to unmute if you have it and read.
I'll read, Brother Thaddeus.
Okay, fine, Sister Mendoza.
Exodus 19, 1 to 4, you said?
4 through 6. Exodus
Oh,
19, 4 through 6. Yeah.
4 to 6. Okay. You yourselves have seen what I did to Egypt, and how I carried you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now, if you obey me fully and keep my covenant, then out of all nations you will be my treasured possession. Although the whole earth is mine, you will be for me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words you are to speak to the Israelites.
Mhm. Thank you so much for that great reading, sis. Appreciate it. So here we see God's purpose for them. I want you to be my peculiar
People.
treasure above all people. Yeah, I want you to be different. I want you to be distinctive. I want you to talk different, think different, dress different.
Act different.
I want you to behave different. I want there to be a visible difference between you and the nations. That's what God says. So you can't get any greater repudiation of God's will for them than when they request, we want a king so we can be like the nations. Yeah. So thanks very much for what has been suggested. What it says about the elders is that they were fearful. It also says they were looking very much at the nations. How they know what's among the nations? Hmm? How they know so much about the nations? They've been looking at them. They've been studying them. They've been finding them attractive. And there's a text where God tells them in Jeremiah, do not learn the way of the heathen. I don't want you to learn their ways. Don't even figure out how they do what, because that knowledge will mess you up. You will now want to bring that knowledge into things. So there's some things we're better off not knowing. You know, I don't want to know what cocaine feels like. I don't want to know what it is to kiss a guy. I don't want to know. So God similarly tells them, don't be like the nations. Let's move on to
Brother Bruno.
yes.
Yeah, I think also that they perhaps saw the pomp and splendor of the kings of the other nations, their attire, their crowns, their wealth, their chariots and all those things there, which they they were attracted to. But it just shows that God took care of them from all those times, as we read in when they were coming from Egypt, and all the times God God took care of Israel by winning battles for them. It's
Mm-hmm.
just that they just wanted to it showed a rejection of God's authority, because they were tired of they wanted what they wanted, and they defied God's authority. They said, we want a king, and that's what we're gonna get. And God was not well pleased with them, but he gave them the request through Samuel, despite the consequences that would ensue on them, with all these people that they would have to give all their food, everything they would have to give to the king, go and fight battles. So that's what they wanted, and that's what they got. But it displeased God greatly.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to really look at those things and see, how, because it shows a lack of trust and faith as well. So yeah,
Yeah.
we have to take examples from those what went before, so
Yeah.
that we'll be able to learn from it and stay away from those troubles that will take us away from God.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sister Elaine. Um, I have to confess that when you first said Brother Bruno, I wasn't sure whose voice it was, but as you continued to speak, I said, "Oh, yeah, yeah, I know that voice." Brother Clancy's smiling. Yeah, but the pomp, the splendor, the pageantry, yeah, that is visually appealing. Yeah. Was there someone who recently wanted to have a military parade? Mhm. Contrary to the traditions of the military and the country, they said we don't do military parades because we don't want to display what our powers are. We don't want to overemphasize our military powers because that's not really what makes a nation strong. You have to have strong character, strong values, strong relationships, strong allies. But countries that are dictatorial have military parades, China, North Korea, Russia, and it looks good, right? There's a visual appeal that 1,000 soldiers coming down marching in unison. That has some kind of visual appeal. It taps into the carnal, fleshy side of man. So they want that. And Elaine is saying this is part of what influenced them. As they look at the nations, Moab and Ammon, the Philistines, look at the king with his crown and all that. Wow, that looks good. Where's our king? Yeah. So God says, walk by faith. Walk by faith. People ask us in the Church of Christ, who is your head? Who is your head? Well, you don't have an earthly head. There must be a head. We say Jesus is our head. They say, nah, man, that's not good enough. You must have a head, an earthly head. Where are your headquarters? We say our headquarters are in heaven because headquarters means the quarters of the head. And if Jesus is the head, and he's in heaven, then heaven is the headquarters. No, no, no. You have to have a headquarters. And you see how that visual, material, fleshly thing appeals to people where they, end up, appointing heads and giving authority that God has not given to man to rule and to reign over them. All right, let's go on. Oh my goodness. It's on the bottom. All right, so let's go on. Number 8, how did God interpret Israel's request for a king? And how is this different from the way the elders saw it? How did God interpret this request? Anyone who hasn't gone yet? Oh, okay. We have Sister Val who has gone already. Sister Val, go ahead.
Sorry, I couldn't unmute. We could pretend I haven't gone already. But the fact of the matter is, he told them, they're not rejecting you, they're rejecting me. So God already knew what the consequences were going to be for whatever choices they made, and he let them make the choice because he had already warned them. Sometimes we just don't pay attention to the warnings and we want what we want. I think that's been said several times. I think Sister Bruno said it. They wanted what they wanted. So they're gonna get what they want. They're not gonna like it, but that's what they want. So let them have their heads.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you. All right. So um, thanks, Sister Val, for going the first time. I just pretended that she hadn't gone before. Yeah. All right, question number 9. What evidence is there that Israel was set on having a king? And how did this influence God's response? Is there any evidence that they were set, dead set, immovably set on having their own king? Yeah, because God told Samuel, tell them what having a king is going to be like. And even after Samuel told them, they said, bring it on. So that shows they were dead set. And because of that, God now acquiesces. We're asking, how did this influence God's response? God saw they were dead set on having a king in rejection of him. So he says, give the people what they want. Our final question, how did Israel's choice for a king impact their standing with God and his mission for the nation? All right. So God's mission for them was spelled out in the text we read earlier in Exodus 19. And this choice for a king to be like the nations was a complete repudiation of God's stated mission for them. So let's finish then with our supplements. We'll turn over to Brother Steve. All right, so here's some takeaways that we can season our hearts with. Let us allow these truths to be seasoning that we put on our hearts, that hopefully that seasoned heart will be able to resist the attacks of Satan. Satan will attack our hearts and plant thoughts, plant ideas, and so on. But if our hearts are well seasoned with the truths of God, we are in a better position to, um, resist his suggestions. Sister Sweeney?
Brother Bruno, you go ahead. I will ask.
I'm sorry, Sister Sweeney, but you're breaking up. Your connection isn't very good. You're coming in and out.
Um, It's okay, Brother Bruno. Go ahead with your supplements. I'll talk later.
Okay, thank you. All right, so here we go. Number one, we must know our identity as God's people and be comfortable with it. This is an important thing. Be comfortable in being a Christian. Yeah. Know that you are a Christian and be comfortable with it. Don't be uncomfortable with it where you're trying to hide it or you are trying to be something other than what God has called you to be. Don't find the nations attractive. Number two, we must not see the world in rebellion against God as something to imitate or emulate. The nations they wanted to be like are actually idol worshippers, nations that offer their children in the fire. These nations don't know God, and yet Israel is seeing in them a pattern. So as we think about the application, how can we see people who themselves don't know God, are not in a relationship with God, but we want to be like them? How do they become our models? How? Sometimes in our quest to find solutions, we can create greater problems. Several of you have pointed out that it was a problem that Joel and Abijah, the sons of Samuel, were taken. That's awful. But the suggestion of the elders of Israel only made matters worse. Things can get better, but they could also get worse. So we don't want to rush a decision. We want to be deliberate or calculating. We want to consult God first thing, because matters could be made worse. Sometimes God grants our requests, intending them to teach us lessons. Yeah. If we adopt that thing, as Elaine says, Sister Elaine says, we will have what we want. We will have a king. Then when God gives it you, you might be punching the air and saying, yes, we got what we wanted. God answered our prayer. But for what reason? Why has God given you what he has given you? For what purpose? Is it to teach you? Or is it really a blessing? Or is it something else? Finally, despite civil and religious authorities, we must be most conscious of God's rule. We live in Bermuda, we live in the US, we live in Trinidad, and God has appointed civil rulers over us. But we must be more conscious of the rule of God over our lives than the civil authorities. God has also appointed religious authorities within the church, elders, evangelists, and so on. Hebrews chapter 13, 1 Thessalonians 5. But what should be key for us, what we should be more conscious of, is the rule of God through those religious leaders, through those evangelists and elders, as opposed to seeing it purely from the standpoint or as originating with those leaders. Yeah. So this is Israel's fault. They are not seeing that God's rule is over them prior to them having a king. And they are uncomfortable with that scenario. How could you be uncomfortable if God is the one ruling you? Yeah. So somehow they gave more credence to civil rulers. They found it more secure to have civil rulers than to have the rule of God. Let's always choose to have God's rule over us. Because when God is ruling us, then when religious leaders step out of line, or when civil authorities step out of line, we'll be able to say we ought to obey God rather than men. So that's our study for this evening. We appreciate so much your presence here on the platform and those of you joining us on other platforms as well. And we appreciate your contributions. We turn over to
Brother Bruno, before you close.
Okay. Go ahead, Sister Sweeney.
It repented God. Are you hearing me now?
Yeah, off and
Hello?
on. Off and on, yes. Go ahead. Okay, she's not coming through. Sister Sweeney, if you're hearing us,
Are you hearing me now?
you still have the same challenge.
Yeah. Are you hearing me now?
I am.
I was saying that God repented that he made man during the time of Noah when he did not have much encounters with men. But during the time of Samuel, when he said, it's me they have rejected, I'm just can't imagine the emotions that he would have gone through.
Mm-hmm.
You know, after doing so much things for his people.
Yeah, the emotions would have been worse, would have been much worse. Because as you pointed out, he has done a lot more at that time than what is reflected in Genesis 6. He would have brought Israel out of Egypt. As he mentions in Exodus 19, you saw what I did to the Egyptians. I bore you on eagle's wings. I brought you to myself. I carried you in the wilderness, and so on and so forth. And in spite of that, they are requesting a king. So the emotional load would have been even heavier. And God does get emotional. We see Jesus himself weeping over Jerusalem and saying, "Oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem." Yeah. So he is grieved with our conduct. Thank you, Sister Sweeney. We'll turn over now to Brother Steve.
Thank you very much.